Congress is supposed to be and our representation is supposed to be. Yes.
I have another question. I think one of her weaknesses is her residency. So how long has she lived here? Did she live here long? And how long has she lived outside the state? So just ordinary people think about her just that, well, she lived here about a day and a half, then she became a house person. So the ordinary person doesn't always think about different issues like we do, but they do realize that in a way she's lived some time with her husband. He does, I guess
He was. He's a lobbyist now. Yep.
a lobbyist.
Yep.
Lobbyist. I should guess. A lobbyist.
I think that those are all things that will be asked this fall. I think those are all issues that are going to be discussed during the general election, absolutely.
Repeat what she just said.
Well, she was talking about the fact that we need to really be discussing how much she actually is in the state, where her residency is, where she spends her time, how long she's actually lived here. And I think that this fall is going to be really interesting to hear her answer those questions. Yes?
What sort of legislation would you be pushing for as a congresswoman?
Well, the first legislation I'll be pushing for is to balance our budget so that we don't continue to add to our debt, and then we need to cut government, and we need smaller government. So we need to first, to balance our budget and make sure that we're not spending into debt, is to take these TARP dollars that are being repaid to the government and start putting them towards our debt rather than keep continuing to spend them. We need to start cutting departments. And I'm a firm believer that you look at departments and you see why they were originally established and see how they're meeting those goals. If they're not meeting the goals for why they were established, then they need to be cut and not be funded. I think it's important. I don't think anybody looks at that. We give all these reasons for why we start programs, why we start departments, and we never revisit that and see if they're actually accomplishing anything.
Would you want to defund Obamacare if the House decides not to allocate money to Obamacare, if they cut off right there?
Yes, absolutely. I think that's one of the keys that we need to do. And one of the options that we'll have if we have a majority in the House is to defund Obamacare through the appropriations process. I think that's one of the options that we have, is obviously these departments can't put a lot of the regulations into place. They don't have the dollars to do it. Yes?
One of the strategies, our national defense is really being demobilized and defunded. I mean, through the space program now, defunded, basically not speaking on Memorial Day. And then the national defense bill, they put homosexuality in there, and add another $50 billion. How do you handle situations like that? How do you argue those?
Well, first, legislation should stand on its own and not cover different topics that have nothing to do with it. If you look at that defense bill that is being proposed, they're also trying to tack on another $50 billion worth of spending that has nothing to do with our military, and in order to get more spending passed. So I think that absolutely they need to cover one topic. I think it's interesting that this administration is so willing to not rely on the military commanders' insight during these situations, especially in regards to that policy. Those military commanders have lived it. They have been with their troops. They have had boots on the ground experience. And now at this point in time, they're trying to force something through Congress that hasn't even had the time for the review that they were promised. I think that it's premature, something they absolutely should not be doing. They need to make sure that those military commanders have the opportunity to give their input, and they're not allowing that. But I think that one of the things that we've done consistently is not provide and follow through on our promises that we make to our military, and not give them the resources that they need to remain victorious. And then we put them on timetables, which set them up to fail. We need to make sure that when we go into Afghanistan and Iraq, that we're making sure we leave there victorious, because those were threats to our national security. And we need to keep our eyes on the ball and make sure that we're not leaving until we leave successful. Yes?
You know, I think there's going to be some Republicans that vote for her, Seth Sandlin, just because of the fact she voted against the health care plan. And if we get asked that question, how do we respond to, those people in support of her?
I would ask them that if somebody truly did not like that health care bill, would they come back to their home state and in order to avoid a primary say, well, I guess I won't work to repeal it? Because I think that's selling your vote for personal and political gain. And I think that's what she did. She came back to South Dakota, was faced with a primary from a fellow Democrat, and made a deal that, okay, if you don't run against me,